Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another excellent astronomy trivia night. I'm your host, Ilana McDonald, and we're going to be getting started in just a moment. But before we do, make sure you go to kahoot.it and enter the game pin that you see at the top of the screen. So that's 1635152 so that you can play along. And if you want to win our fabulous prizes tonight, be sure to put in your actual email address because otherwise we can't contact you so you can get the prizes. So put in your real email address and we promise not to contact you unless you've won a prize. So it looks like there are some people who are signing up, so we'll just wait a few more minutes for people to join, and then we'll be ready to get started. Very excited to see you all here tonight. I'm very excited about the subject of this trivia night, so I hope you will be too. So once again, for those of you who are just joining, please go to kahoot.it, or if you happen to have the Kahoot app, you can use that, and use the game pin 1635152. You should also be able to copy and paste it from the chat, and you just put that in, and you'll be connected to the game, and you'll be able to answer the questions that we'll be posting live. We've got about a few more people joining in. Just going to wait for a few more moments, see if we can get more people joining in before we get started so that, the latecomers still have a chance to win some prizes. We've got some very exciting prizes tonight. I wish I could win them myself. So once again, once you put the pin into the Kahoot app, it's going to generate a cool little name for you, and then you just have to put in your actual email address, which you have to do if you want to be able to win a prize so that we can contact you, and we promise not to contact you if you haven't won a prize. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. Thank you all for joining tonight and for your patience. All right, it looks like we have about 42 people who've joined in, and that's one of my favorite numbers. So I think we'll just get started. But before we do, I wanted to do a land acknowledgement. So here we go. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are very grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land. All right, it looks like we've got just about almost 50 people joined in, so that seems like a good place to start. But if you're just arriving, you can join in late. The game pin will remain in the chat, and also you'll be able to see it on the screen throughout the entire quiz if you happen to come in late. All right, so let's get started. So our theme for the night is comets and asteroids and other things that could hit the Earth potentially. So as we get started, I do have to go over a few rules. So anyone who's watching today can play. However, we can only send our prizes to residents of Canada and only those who are outside of Quebec. So I'm sorry to anybody living outside of Canada who's watching tonight, or anybody who lives in Quebec, sorry. But we can't send you prizes, unfortunately, because of rules. People who have graduate degrees in astronomy or something equivalent are not unfortunately eligible to win prizes either, just because it gives you an unfair advantage. If you're under the age of 18, make sure that you have your parents' permission to play. And that being said, since there may be children present in the chat, please keep the chat respectful and family friendly. And finally, if you want to get a prize, you have to use your real email address on Kahoot. Otherwise, we won't be able to contact you to tell you how you've won and, to get your address and all that stuff to send it to you. So we promise, pinky swear, that we will not contact you unless you've won a prize. Okay, that being said, prizes, those are coming up. We have some really, really good ones tonight. So how it works is that the top 3 players will get their choice of one of these prize packs. And then we will choose one random person from the entire game to get a 4th prize. And, first place gets the first choice of prizes and so on and so forth. So our first prize pack is this limited edition Chime Lego set. There are only a few of these in existence in the world, and it's just this really, really cool radio telescope in BC that we've made a Lego set of, and it's super cool. The second prize pack is this 3D printed moon globe, which is really neat. It's basically just this cool little globe that you can pick up, and it looks like the moon, and it can change colors, and I want one for myself. It's so neat. The third prize pack is a Dunlap Institute t-shirt. And the 4th prize pack is a water bottle, a starfinder, and some stickers from the Dunlap Institute. And finally, the 5th prize is a Dunlap pop socket, a notepad, and a starfinder. So these are all of the prizes that you could potentially win tonight. And without further ado, let's get started. So if you're just joining now, you can still join in on the games. We haven't quite started yet, but be sure to go to kahoot.it, put in the game pin that you can see at the bottom of the screen over there, and, and then you can answer the questions as they come along. All right, so let's get started on those questions. So our very first question is a multi-select question, so you have to put in multiple answers. And this question is a little bit about the definition of comets and asteroids, in that how are comets and asteroids different? So select all of the answers that you think apply to this question. Is it asteroids are metallic and rocky, comets are icy and rocky? Is it that asteroids hit planets often, but comets almost never do? Is it that asteroids are leftovers from the planet's formation and comets are not? Or is it that asteroids form close to the sun, comets formed very far away? And I wasn't able to say them all fast enough, but the answers are: the first one, asteroids are metallic and rocky, and comets are icy and rocky, and also that asteroids formed close to the sun and that comets formed very, very far away. You have comets tend to be these icy, rocky objects that tend to be farther away from the sun, and asteroids tend to be more rocky and icy and tend to be closer to the sun. So closer into the solar system. All right, let's see how everyone is doing after our first question. It looks like Shining Elk is in the lead with Epic Gazelle and Jolly Wallaby in second and third places, but it's still a pretty close race, only after the first question, so let's see how it goes. All right, our second question is: between which 2 planets in the solar system are most of the asteroids located? With a little typo there, sorry about that. But between which 2 planets in the solar system are most of the asteroids located? Is it between Venus and Mercury? Is it between Saturn and Uranus? Is it between Mars and Jupiter? Or is it beyond the orbit of Neptune? So remember your answers from the previous question, and that might help a little bit. But between which 2 planets are most of the asteroids in the solar system located? And most of you got the correct answer. Congratulations to everyone. We have most of the asteroids in the solar system between the two planets of Mars and Jupiter. And the asteroid belt, as we call it, which is located in that region, is basically the limit between the rocky planets, which tend to be near the center of our solar system, and the gas giant planets, which are farther away. So this belt of debris, the asteroid belt, is located between the rocky planets and the gas giants, and specifically between Mars and Jupiter. Let's look at our scoreboard once again. Shining Elk has maintained their lead, but Daring Wombat has come into third place. So we'll see how we all do after the next question. So when does a comet's tail form? So comets are famous for having these beautiful tails. When does it form? Does it always have a tail? Is it when it is beyond the orbit of Saturn? Is it when it reaches the inner solar system? Or is the tail only apparent due to the atmospheric effects on Earth? So which of these answers corresponds to when does a comet's tail form? You just have a couple of seconds left. There we go. The answer is, which most of you got once again, is when it reaches the inner solar system. So a comet's tail forms, so we learned previously that a comet is mostly made of ice and rock and dust, and a comet's tail forms when it reaches the inner solar system, and essentially light from the sun starts to evaporate that ice and other compounds that are in the comet, and there's a stream of material that is going away from the sun at all times. And so we only see that when the comet reaches a close enough distance to the sun where it starts to evaporate, essentially. And I have a gripe in that you remember the movie Don't Look Up, which came out not too long ago. They showed the comet with the tail, but it was way at the outer solar system, and that was just not correct. Anyway, besides the point. Let's look at our scoreboard again. Shining Elk is still in the lead, and Daring Wombat has moved to second place. So that's excellent job to you, Daring Wombat, and we'll see if anybody can unseat our current reigning champion, Shining Elk. So our next question is, who wrote The Comet Song, which was the title theme for the animated fantasy film Moomins and the Comet Chase? So who was it? Was it Billie Eilish? Was it Bright Eyes? Was it Raffi? Or was it Bjork? Who wrote The Comet Song? So the faster you answer the questions, the more points you get. So you have about 10 seconds left. So try to get those answers in as quickly as possible. Who wrote The Comet Song? Was it any of those people? And the answer is Bjork, who has written all sorts of interesting music. Moving on to the next question, or looking at our scoreboard again, I should say. Oh my goodness, it looks like Daring Wombat has moved to the lead and that Epic Gazelle is now in second place. That's very exciting news, folks. All right, let's move on to our next question, which is Asteroid 2020 XL5 is what we call a Trojan asteroid. What does it mean? Does it mean that it's on a collision course with the Earth? Does it mean that it is trailing the Earth in its orbit around the Sun? Does it mean that its path dips in and out of the asteroid belt? Or does it mean that it has a shape vaguely resembling that of a horse head? So what is a Trojan asteroid? Got a couple of seconds left. And the correct answer is it is trailing the Earth in its orbit around the Sun. So there's been a lot of talk about Lagrange points with the James Webb Space Telescope just having arrived at one of Earth's Lagrange points. And these are stable points in the Earth's orbit around the Sun where an object can orbit. And essentially, you can have asteroids that sort of get trapped in those Lagrange points and stay trailing the Earth around the Sun. And we've discovered 2 asteroids that are doing that in the Earth's orbit. And then larger planets such as Jupiter have dozens and dozens of these Trojan asteroids. All right, let's look at the scoreboard once more. It looks like Daring Wombat has maintained their lead and Shining Elk is now in second place. let's see how you all do after this question, which is, what new information was gleaned when the Rosetta spacecraft visited Comet 67P? Was it that an oscillating magnetic field surrounds it? Was it that it contains water similar to that on Earth? Was it that it's emitting neutrinos? Or was it that it contains no organic material? What special information did Rosetta glean about 67P, which it recently arrived at and in fact landed on, making it the first man-made object to land on a comet? So the answer is that it has a magnetic field, an oscillating magnetic field that surrounds it. Many of you said that it contains water similar to that on Earth, but it actually, one of the interesting discoveries was that it actually didn't have water that was similar to the Earth at all. It was like heavy water that isn't very similar to what you'd find normally in an ocean or a lake here on Earth. So what it did have was an oscillating magnetic field, which actually some people translated into sound, and you can look up the sound of Comet 67P. I think it's on SoundCloud. You can find it there. And you can actually hear what this comet sounds like. And it sounds really, really interesting. It's sort of like an ASMR kind of sound. It's really great. All right, after all of that, let's look at the scoreboard once again. Very little change, except for Jolly Wallaby and Mystery Gator are now on the scoreboard. And that Mystery Gator has a streak of 4 correct answers in a row, so excellent job. All right, our next question is, what is the name of the spacecraft that has collected samples from Asteroid Bennu? Is it called Philae? Is it called OSIRIS-REx? Is it called Dawn? Or is it called Chang'e 2? So what is the name of the spacecraft that has collected samples from an asteroid called Bennu? Give you a couple more seconds, and your time is up. There we go. It is called OSIRIS-REx. So excellent job. Most of you got this question correct. So OSIRIS-REx has in fact visited this comet called Bennu, or not comet, asteroid called Bennu, which is actually sort of a loosely held collection of rocks that are gravitationally stuck together. And it has actually picked up some samples from this asteroid and will be bringing them back to Earth within the next couple of years. So that's pretty exciting because we've never brought back material directly from an asteroid like this. So let's move on to the scoreboard once more. Very few changes again, except for Amiable Owl is now on the scoreboard, but Daring Wombat has maintained their lead, so congratulations to you so far. Let's move on to the next question, which is a true or false question. So the question is, there is a 1 in 27 chance that asteroid Bennu will collide with the Earth in the year 2182. Is this true or false? There is a 1 in 27 chance that asteroid Bennu, which is the one we just saw in the previous question, will collide with the Earth in the year 2182. Is this true or false? And it was a pretty close split, but most of you got the correct answer, which is that this is false. In fact, there's a 1 in 2,700 chance that it will hit the Earth in that year. But it will be making a very close approach, where it will be getting closer than the moon. And this is a asteroid that actually passes within the Earth's orbit quite frequently. So it's one we've had to keep an eye on. And since it's a few hundred meters across, it's one you might have to worry about if it was to hit the Earth. All right, once more, let's look at our scoreboard. A few changes here. Groovy Giraffe has now moved into 3rd place, but Daring Wombat maintains their lead. Let's see how you all do after this next question, which is about how large do we think the asteroid that caused the dinosaurs to go extinct was? So was it 100 meters? Was it 1 kilometer? Was it 10 kilometers? Or was it 100 kilometers? So how big do we think the asteroid was that caused the dinosaurs to go extinct? So get those answers in quickly. You've got about 10 seconds left. We're getting a little apocalyptic here, thinking about, some very problematic comets hitting the Earth, asteroids or comets. And yes, that is correct that we believe that it is about 10 kilometers. And so if a comet or asteroid that was about 10 kilometers wide hit the Earth, that is what we call an extinction event, where anything on the surface of the Earth would likely have a very hard time surviving if something that big hit the Earth. All right, let's check out our scoreboard once again. A few little changes. Amiable Owl is now in third place, and Daring Wombat has maintained their lead. The next question is, when comet Shoemaker Levy, 9, collided with Jupiter in 1994, how fast was it traveling? So this is a comet that actually broke apart and hit Jupiter, but how fast was it traveling when it actually did it? Was it going 60 kilometers an hour? Was it going 925 kilometers an hour? Was it going 5,240 kilometers an hour? Or was it going 216,000 kilometers an hour? So how fast was this comet traveling, or I should say the pieces of this comet? How fast were they traveling? And the answer is it was actually traveling at 216,000 kilometers per hour. So it was going very, very fast as it collided with Jupiter's surface. And you can actually see the scars on Jupiter's surface for a long time after this comet collided with Jupiter's surface. So a lot of you said 5,240 kilometers per hour, but it was actually even faster than that. All right, let's check out our scoreboard once again. Oh my goodness, Shining Elk has moved to first place. Let's see who can push ahead in this next question, which is, how many near-Earth objects has the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System discovered since 2015, when the program essentially started? So we call it ATLAS for short. And so how many of these near-Earth objects has this system discovered since 2015? Has it discovered around 800 asteroids and comets, around 2,000 asteroids and comets, around 7,000 asteroids and comets, or around 15,000 asteroids and comets? So how many of these near-Earth objects, that is objects that could come close to the Earth, has it detected? And the answer is, a pretty even spread in the answers here, that was a tricky one, is that it's discovered about 800 asteroids and comets in the last 7 years. So that's still a lot of objects that are very close to the Earth, but not quite as many as in the other answers. All right, once again, looking at our scoreboard, we've got Quick Sloth, who's moved into second place, and then Winged Dingo, who's moved into third. And it's a very tight race tonight, folks. So let's go on to the next question and see how you do. How many known asteroids passed closer to the Earth than the Moon, so within about 380,000 kilometers, in the month of January? That is January of this year. So January 2022. So how many known asteroids passed closer to the Earth than the Moon in this past month? Was it none? Was it 2? Was it 6? Or was it 10? So how many asteroids came pretty close to the Earth even within the last month? That we know of course, that we've detected. And the answer is in fact 10. So that's a little bit scary. There were in fact something was detected approximately every 3 days in the last month. So there, once again, are a lot of things that are, passing close to the Earth all the time. Fortunately, we detected all of these, and none of them hit the Earth, which is good. All right, looking at our scoreboard once again, we've got Amiable Owl, who's moved back into second place. Excellent job, with Shining Elk maintaining their lead. This next question is a true or false question. So, there is evidence comets may have seeded the Earth with organic molecules about 3.7 to 4 billion years ago. Is this true or false? That comets may have seeded the Earth with organic molecules several billion years ago. So is this a true statement or a false statement? We've Got about 10 seconds left to get those answers in. And your time is up. So most of you got the right answer, which is that this is a true statement. So there was a period about 3.7 to 4 billion years ago, which was called the late heavy bombardment period. And this is when the Earth was just brand new and there was stuff hitting it all the time. And we think that there were a lot of comets that were hitting the Earth at that time, adding water to it, and also organic molecules such as protein, or the building blocks for proteins and sugars and stuff like that. All right, looking at our scoreboard once again, not much change except for that Daring Wombat has moved into 4th place. Let's see how it goes in this next question, which is, how many craters, which are bigger than 20 kilometers, do we estimate formed on the Earth due to the impact of asteroids 3.8 to 4.1 billion years ago? So how many, during that bombardment period, how many craters do we think formed because of the impact of these asteroids? So is it approximately 22,000, approximately 110,000, approximately 480, or approximately 3,200? So get those answers in. You've got a few seconds left. There we go. And the correct answer is approximately 22,000 craters that were bigger than 20 kilometers formed on the Earth about 4 billion years ago. So because of all those things that were hitting the Earth would have been at that time covered in craters, just like the moon is today. And all of those craters on the moon, by the way, are left over from that period in time when there was all this stuff hitting it in the very early solar system. But of course, on the Earth, we have weather, we have wind, we have running water, and all of these have worked together to erode away a lot of those craters. So we don't see as many today. All right, looking at our scoreboard once again, oh my goodness, Daring Wombat has just shot into the lead. Congratulations to you. Let's see if you can maintain that lead after this next question, another true or false question. So the question is, we currently do not have the technology to destroy a comet like the one in Don't Look Up. Is this true or false? So we currently don't have the technology to destroy a comet like the one in Don't Look Up. Is this a true statement or a false statement? So you have about 10 seconds left to get those answers in. Do we have the technology to destroy a comet like the one in Don't Look Up? As it turns out, we actually do have that technology. So it's a bit of a double negative. The question is, we currently don't have the technology, but in fact we do. And the lead time on that comet in the movie was about 6 months. And there's people who actually did a study to see if we would be able to send some sort of nuclear device to sort of push it off its course or anything like that. And in fact, one of the depressing parts about this movie is that they didn't bother to actually save the Earth from this comet when we totally would have had the technology to. So a bit of background, this was a comet that was about the size of the one that they saw that destroyed the dinosaurs, so about 10 kilometers wide, and it, well, spoiler alert, doesn't end well for anyone. All right, let's look once again at our scoreboard. It is exactly the same as it was before. So let's look at our next question. How much warning time would ATLAS, this advanced detection of asteroids telescope network, be able to give us if a 100-meter asteroid was heading towards the Earth? So how early would we be able to detect it? Would it be several days, several weeks, several months, or several years? So how much warning time would this ATLAS be able to give us if a 100-meter wide asteroid was headed towards the Earth, which was one that would be big enough to cause a little bit of damage? And the answer is only several weeks. So if something was bigger, you'd have more time to be able to detect it because it would be easier to see. But something that is only 100 meters wide, you'd only have a few weeks after detecting it to be able to prepare for its imminent arrival. So that's one reason why we should work really hard to try and detect these types of things in our solar system, because we don't have that much lead time. Whoop. Accidentally skipped the scoreboard, but we'll look at it after the next question. So according to NASA, what is the most expensive but realistic solution for preventing an object from hitting the Earth? So is it drilling deep into its core and planting explosives to break it in half? Is it pushing it off course with a nuclear explosive? Is it slowly nudging it off course using the gravity of a massive spacecraft? Or is it destroying it with ballistic missiles? So which of these is the most expensive, according to NASA, but a realistic solution for preventing an object from hitting the Earth? And the answer is slowly nudging it off course using the gravity of a massive spacecraft, which I believe they call a gravity tractor, sort of like a tractor beam in Star Trek. But essentially, you'd, over several years, have a very massive object or a massive spacecraft of some sort next to the asteroid, and whatever object it is, and you'd slowly pull it off its course using gravity. And this would be very expensive, and you'd also have to have many years to prepare, but at least it involves not blowing up the asteroid, which could cause other problems, such as having a whole bunch of shrapnel from this asteroid hitting the atmosphere, which wouldn't be great. All right. Let's look at that scoreboard once again. We've now got Daring Wombat, who has moved to the lead. So good job to you. It seems like it's changing all the time, so we'll see who finally wins in the end. We've got a couple more questions. This question, in the 2011 film Melancholia, what type of object destroys the Earth? Now, as the image, I tried to put the path that Melancholia took, but doesn't show up very well in the background. But was this object an asteroid, a comet, an alien spacecraft, or a rogue planet? So what type of object destroys the Earth in the movie Melancholia? Which was a very interesting and strange movie. I enjoyed it greatly. All right, time's up. It was, in fact, a rogue planet. So it looks like 44 of you actually saw this movie, or at least have heard about it. And yes, so it was a very strange movie where this rogue planet makes a close approach to the Earth, and then, it eventually crashes into the Earth, and all sorts of strange things happen. A very unlikely scenario, because if there was a rogue planet going through the solar system, we likely would have detected it a long, long time ago. Then again, there isn't much we would be able to do if a rogue planet was heading towards the Earth. So, very interesting premise. So, looking once again at our scoreboard, we've got Quick Sloth, who's moved into the lead, and a few other changes, including Shining Elk moving back up to third, and Snowy Bobcat moving on to the scoreboard. Excellent job. It's all very, very close, though. Very, very close points. So make sure you get those answers in quickly. Here's one. What event in Roman history is associating with the following lines of poetry? And so in this image, it says, "At no other time, in no other place, did more lightning fall from a quiet sky, nor dire comets so often burst in flame." Was it the assassination of Julius Caesar? Was it the founding of Rome? Was it Rome's conquest of Egypt? Or was it the suicide of Nero? So, what historical event in Roman history, is associated with the appearance of a comet in the sky, essentially, about which this poetry was written? And it is, in fact, the assassination of Julius Caesar. And actually, it's a little bit ironic, but during a festival that was celebrating Julius Caesar's life, a comet appeared in the sky, and then he was assassinated shortly after. So they took it to being a bad omen, and actually it eventually led to him being called like a living god and stuff like that. All right, once again, let's look at that scoreboard. We've got a few changes, including Winged Dingo moving up into third place, and Quick Sloth has maintained their lead, with Daring Wombat in second. All right, our next question is our final question of the night, so get those answers in. And this one is, what is the source of the word comet in English? Is it comes, which means the Latin word for companion? Is it coman, which is the Greek meaning to have long hair? Is it coma, the Greek word for sleep? Or is it commodere, which is the Latin word for eat or to eat? So what is the source of the word comet in English? And it looks like most of you got it. Coman is the Greek word which means to have long hair. And this comes from the fact that when you see a comet in the sky, it looks like the tail is this long trail of hair going behind it. And the Greek word for comet is kometes, and that basically just means a star with long hair, which is pretty neat. All right, we've now reached the end of all of our questions, unfortunately. Let's see who got the top places in this trivia quiz. So, in third place, we have Winged Dingo. Excellent job. In second place, we have Quick Sloth. And in first place, we have our grand prize winner, Daring Wombat. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to everyone who played. I hope you had an excellent time and learned a few things about comets and asteroids and all sorts of other things that could possibly hit the Earth. And we look forward to seeing you on the next trivia night, which will be next month, and we'll announce it on Facebook and Instagram and all of our social medias. And I just want to thank you once again for playing with me tonight. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. Good night.